In today's context, Shazia, do you still believe Arvind Kejriwal as the honest person?
You think somebody is an ideologue, but you soon realize that he's a demagogue and he'd do anything. No, I think there's one thing Arvind Kejriwal is not: an honest person. The man lacks integrity, he's totally inconsistent and very selfish. I can't understand dynastic politics. It bothers me, whichever party it's in. I have gone on to say, when they said, will you join politics? And I said, I might, my colleagues might, but I can swear to you, Arvind and Anna will never. So in fact, I took a guarantee for him. There was this story doing the rounds that Anna could be arrested. And you know who leaked that story? Manish Sisodia. Like this, and Arvind saying, chup raho, don't show your tears, bilkul nahi. इनको घुटनों पे सरकार को घुटने टेकने पड़ेंगे. देखो, the truth is finally coming out.
Did you feel that it was almost like a boys' club there?
It's वो गाजियाबाद के लड़के.
She's also known as the firebrand leader of the Bharatiya Janata Party, the face of the party when it comes to Delhi politics. But beyond that, Shazia Ilmi has also been a television journalist herself, started off with the Aam Aadmi Party. Today, perhaps in the podcast also, Shazia, more than what the BJP spokesperson that you have been, what is it to be Shazia Ilmi, someone who started off, if I remember correctly, during our television days also, of seeing you with that Anna hat, Main Bhi Kejriwal being one of it, to
yes,
now having a completely different outlook. I want to start with that campaigning of yours of RK Puram.
Yes.
Many would say that that's where you started off to really understand what politics would have essentially been and what it entails. And one line that I remember correctly, you described Arvind Kejriwal, because it was difficult. After all, you were dealing with entrenched political parties like the BJP, the Congress particularly, and it was difficult for you to go back to the people to explain who exactly is Arvind Kejriwal. After all, he was just a government officer. You called him an honest person. In today's context, Shazia, do you still believe Arvind Kejriwal as the honest person?
No, I think there's one thing Arvind Kejriwal is not: an honest person. The man lacks integrity. He's totally inconsistent and very selfish. And yes, you're right. I'm an accidental politician. I was never meant to be. I was doing exactly what you're doing, Shravan. I was a news anchor. And, there's a very thin line between idealism and stupidity. And I think I crossed it a few times over. So I actually felt they're good people. I genuinely believed that these people will bring about a new kind of politics. I actually felt disgusted when I would read about one scam after the other. So when I was a news anchor in a very prominent network and a primetime anchor at that, every day there would be a new story or a new scam emerging out of the central government's closet. And that's all we covered. And I really wanted to do more. It was very comfortable, to be there because you're an anchor, you can ask questions. You don't have to do much. You don't contribute except for asking tough questions and looking presentable and being smart, being quick-witted and what have you. And my background as a journalist earlier helped, obviously. So I was one of those anchor producer kind of a person, right, journalist kind of a person. So I always decided to wear many, many hats all at once. So that's who I am. But I felt I have to do more. And it was just a calling. I was very restless. I needed to do more. Something didn't feel right. And I said, no, this has got to give. Something's got to give. And when Jantar Mantar days, when Anna Hazare just
2011 or just
yes, 2011, beginning of 2011. Yeah, I joined in March. And yeah, just about.
So was there a trigger point? Because there has to be a trigger point for someone leaving behind a career, which many would say back in 2011, television did see a boom. There was a major rise. So quitting at a time when one would say that you would have had a much more comfortable position within that particular network, established, you want to go get into something which no one really knows what is coming. Exactly. So what was the trigger point?
So, I don't know, I think the trigger's always been there since I've been a young girl. And I remember as a head girl also of my school, and I was so proud, and I would carry the flag, and on Independence Day they would play all the songs, "Ae Mere Watan Ke Logo," and something would happen to me. I don't know, I can't explain it, which is what explains many things that I've done. Like when I went to Korea and, Seoul, South Korea and we saw Pakistanis attacking.
Right.
I couldn't bear it, and there was no camera there. So I have been that kind of a person. Something I cannot stand lack of logic. I can't understand dynastic politics. It bothers me, whichever party it's in. So I will not condone anybody. I speak my mind. I will not mince words. So it has always bothered me. And there's a lot of sense of injustice that I have faced as a young girl, which all young girls do who come from, a certain background. And I wanted to do more. I mean, it wasn't enough now just to get a great salary and be happily ensconced in that world. I needed to say it. I think that all the pain that I've endured as a young girl growing up in that Chamanganj area, Kanpur, it always stayed with me. And I really want people to see the truth for what it is. So I think I'm odd that way. So there wasn't one trigger point. Yeah, at a point of time, even as an anchor, I realized there's nothing much I'm doing. I'm an observer, I'm a critique, I'm a commentator, I'm a watcher. But can I do something about it? So it was just that, and I've always been involved. I mean, even while I was an anchor, I was one of the fewest people who was involved in, who knew Prashant Bhushan beforehand and worked with vendors and worked with sex workers and their children. I've been involved with a lot of that work. I was involved with sex trafficking and all the laws that were made against it. So I was always interested in that. That has always been my calling besides this. You don't have to be one person. There is some fire in you and you need to express it. There's also anger and angst. And you need to express it in different ways. So you express it as a cub reporter, then as a journalist, then as a anchor, well-known anchor, then as an activist, and then as a politician. So you play all these roles, but something that bothers you deep within, that angers you or that makes you happy, more or less remains the same. That's the core of who you are, which is why I see myself,
So going back to 2011, the time that you decided to leave journalism and get into that mode of activism, because that point in time there wasn't this thought that there would be an Aam Aadmi Party. What was your first kind of interaction with Arvind Kejriwal or several others who were part of the Anna Hazare movement at that point in time? What is it that you remember about the first conversation with Arvind Kejriwal?
So somebody took me to Arvind Kejriwal and I had a lot to say to him about the Jantar Mantar situation, and I said, what are you doing? You're really playing to a lobby here. You don't have any credibility. You need to make it more neutral. You need to make it more constitutional. You also come across sometimes as very arrogant. And remember he started saying, "Ji, hum to chote log hain," and all of that. So a lot of television grammar is what I offered to him, and I said, your backdrop and all, you're not making sense. You seem to be a party with a team of people with a vested interest. Arvind was very quick to engage. He was extremely welcoming. He said, you start working for us, just give us 3 months, he said. That's what. And that is a time when they were
But did you feel that he's going to enter politics at that point in
time?
No,
Arvind, no. In fact, many months later also, when I would mention this to him, he would say, no, Shazia, we'll lose all credibility. I have gone on record in my older channel, which is now ABP, which used to be Star News. I have gone on to say, when they said, will you join politics? And I said, I might, my colleagues might, but I can swear to you, Arvind and Anna will never. So in fact, I took a guarantee for him, because Arvind used to tell me, Shazia, we should never enter politics. I said, why not? They keep writing this. Why don't these people jump into the electoral fray? What stops him from entering, and why can't they ask for more constitutional ways to change the law? This is what Arvind said. So there was a complete turnaround, and it perplexed many of us, but something could just happen in his head. And Prashant Bhushan started working in Himachal after the success of Anna Hazare Andolan. But before that, I want to tell you, meeting Anna was very sweet. In many ways, he reminded me of my father, who meant well, and some memories are very sacred. And Anna was it was almost as if we had to be protective about Anna, because Anna would just say anything that would come to his mind. He is a simple person, and he used to be very simple and clear about what he wanted. He didn't know how to spin a story. He didn't know how media worked. His thing was simple. I will do the right thing. I will fast for it, and law must change. He trusted Arvind, he trusted Prashant Bhushan ji, he trusted Shashi Bhushan ji and Kiran Bedi ji and the larger team of ours, which was India Against Corruption. So he felt we'll do the right thing. He just felt that. So I was very protective also about Anna ji. And in fact, the day Anna ji was arrested, it was I who picked him up from the airport. And there was this story doing the rounds that Anna could be arrested. And you know who leaked that story? Manish Sisodia. While on one hand, Prashantji and we were trying to protect Anna and were taking him to a place in Noida, which we did not disclose to anybody. Somebody leaked that story, and I got to know from journalists later on. And they knew where to find him. How did they know? Because I picked him from the airport along with one more person. And that person also I know would never ever. So there were, and there was one person with Anna, so there were 4 of us.
So there has to be something that must have really worked for you to be with them, beyond the fact that you feel that that was the same very period where we almost woke up with every single day with some scam or the other. But you were making an active decision to be with one individual or a few others. What is it that you really liked about Arvind Kejriwal? There has to be something.
Yeah, I was very, very impressed with Arvind Kejriwal. In fact, I remember all those years I used to tie a Rakhi. I was almost an insider when it came to even his house. I was always there. So yeah, I just felt this man can make such a huge difference. He was so smart, is so smart. You know, when they were negotiating with the ministers of UPA too, if you remember, Arvind would come out and he was so quick. He would find out the problems and read it out. I was very impressed with his sharpness. I mean, complete brilliance, I would say.
What was his position vis-a-vis the Congress? Because if one of the position that he had taken during the UPA almost called every politician of the Congress party completely corrupt, within the party, when they had to take support from the Congress party for the first time, what is it that he had to say? Like, how did he really phrase that to the people who may not have believed that this could actually happen? Someone who fought the Congress party decided to take the Congress support.
You know, it's like you think somebody is an ideologue, but you soon realize that he's a demagogue and he'd do anything. And even before that, there were lots of compromises that were being made. Arvind would say one thing here, say something else there. When you went to Okhla and you met people who were all Muslims and you went to Firangi Mahal in Lucknow, I got a whole lot of leaders to meet him. He would say exactly what they wanted to say about Butler House and all of that. When he would go to other constituencies, he would say something else. He would lie blatantly, like he would say ki ye log jo
But isn't this like what a politician is?
Yeah, no, he would say, but we didn't expect that from Arvind, right? Because we were doing politics of difference. I mean, I could have joined any other party then, if it had to be like any other party, right? So some things were very jarring, but I felt this is how it's done perhaps, and maybe he needs to say this. ऐसे जो एसी में बैठने वाले लोग हैं इनको नहीं छोड़ना चाहिए, निकालना चाहिए इनको बाहर और सवाल पूछना चाहिए. So I said this is very disturbing. We shouldn't say that. हम लोग भी तो एयर कंडीशन कमरे में बैठे थे अभी निकल कर आए. Why are you saying that? He said नहीं बोलना ज़रूरी है. So Arvind was very sharp. Arvind was very clear. Who will vote for him? And he says when people vote for you, ये सब तो आ ही जाएंगे. So he's very sharp. He gets it. Like, you know what he said? He said something very interesting which has stayed with me and I'll never forget. And it's true. He says मुसलमानों के लिए ज़्यादा फिक्र नहीं करो. मैंने कहा क्यों? He says नहीं मुसलमानों को कुछ नहीं चाहिए, बस गाली बक दो बीजेपी को और आरएसएस को, वो उससे खुश हो जाएंगे. This is what he said. He says उनको अपने लिए कुछ नहीं चाहिए और communities को चाहिए. So when you're making those committees, that's when Atashi and Raghav came in with holding briefcases, when Prashant Bhushan brought them and Yogendra Yadav. Yogendra Yadav knew Shilpa ji, who's Atashi ji's mother, who was a known communist, and both the parents, which is why her name was Marlena, Marx and Lenin. So when Raghav walked in as a sweet kid, you know, because they were brought in by Prashant Bhushan and Yogendra Yadav, Arvind would shut the door and not even let them come in. Can you imagine? I've seen those days. And Prashant ji would say, Shazia, दरवाज़ा खुलवा दो. मैंने कहा मनीष नहीं खुलवाने देगा. बोले no, they're good people, they'll work, they'll help out. Much after the Anna movement, they had nothing to do with the Anna movement. This is when the party was being made and Yogendra Yadav was setting up committees. You see, so these two would come in, and so I would quietly open, let them come in. You know, Prashant ji would ask me and I would say, आने दीजिए, क्या है? So they would come in. This is how it was. Can you imagine? Can't believe how things have changed. Then what happened, they started becoming, after Anna decided to go, Anna was actually quite upset about the fact that, as we all know, that we were we were going not with the Andolan option but a political option. I was quite shocked when this happened because we had a small meeting before that, just a bunch of us in Noida, and when suddenly it was told to all of us that we are actually forming a party.
Suddenly?
Yeah, actually they had done some homework. I had heard of it, and in Himachal Pradesh they done a small, well, not referendum or
So
whatever,
who was
but
part of
Prashant
it?
Bhushan. Prashant
Okay.
Bhushan ji and his team and Arvind were working on it in Himachal Pradesh. As you know, Prashant ji spends a lot of time there, and he said, we are ready, we worked on something, Aam Aadmi Party would get some support, so a lot of support. We are ready to plunge into politics. And that's when Yogendra Yadav came in full time, because Anna Hazare Andolan, he was also an observer. He was brought in later. So that's how it was.
So, it was at the back of his mind that he will plunge into politics, Arvind Kejriwal, because all this while it was a posturing that was done. In fact, he famously spoke to our editor-in-chief, Arnab Goswami, saying that I'm not going to do it, so much so I've heard stories that he's sworn by his own children. So one would have taken that by...
I was there when Arvind swore, and he says, मैं कसम खाता हूँ अपने बच्चों की.
You all never asked him this question. You all never asked him this question.
No, we asked him. I said, we'll lose credibility because we've said this beforehand.
So what did he have to say?
So he said, this is the only way. You know, Arvind can change his positions like this. He is the proverbial chameleon, you'll find. Just like that. And you know, Yogendra Yadav ji had a very nice word for him. Not existentialist, presentist. Whatever the present moment says, he just jumps into that. He goes against what he said himself.
So he believed that, okay, this is the time he sees an
capitalize.
Opportunity.
They saw a great opportunity. And because we didn't expect Anna Hazare movement to become so huge. And do you know something? And I said it on television because I remembered it. When Anna was arrested from the same so-called safe house that we brought him to, I mean, I and one more person, and Anna's person who was traveling with him from Pune, he was picked up and sent to the jail. You know, some of us went to the jail. Only 2-3 of us were allowed. And it was, they had allocated the UPA-2 regime, which has now come to the help of Arvind Kejriwal. So they had allocated a small park where the movement would happen because we had asked for permission. It was there that I got the news when they were behind the bars and they were being, so I was told to say that we will not be there. Tell everybody to assemble at Ramlila ground. Nobody knew that we were going to Ramlila ground. There were 2 editors who were very close, who also became a part of the party then, who I didn't give this information to because I was told to. And there, Ramlila Maidan, in the morning, it was Kiran Bedi, from Art of Living person who sing Lokpal, this wonderful singer and one who practices Art of Living, and Kiran Bedi and Kumar Vishwas and myself and 4 other people. One is a very senior gentleman from Goa. They were all there, and they were like these gaddhas. And I said, who will come here? It was raining. And we just started. I said, just pick umbrellas, Lokpal, we started. And then Anna, if you remember, Anna came running, everybody came, and then he came to Ramlila ground. So the UPA-2 government did not expect it. Again, there was something terrible that happened then. 13th day, 12th day, Anna's health was deteriorating. And when Anna fasted, everybody was around. There was a little, there was a little tent on the side, on the left-hand side. This was the massive stage. And we were all there all the time. There were medical teams and all of that. So he did the fast under the supervision and under everybody's eyes on the watch. He could not have cheated. I have a story about that. And 11, 12, 13 days, people from Raleigh Siddhi and Maharashtra were very worried. They were extremely hassled and they were and it was almost like there are 2 groups, the India Against Corruption group and the Maharashtra Raleigh Siddhi group. And they came and said, Anna ki halat bahut kharab ho rahi hai aur kuch karna chahiye. And I remember I had tears in my eyes. I said, Anna, kuch ho jayega, kuch ho na jaye, because he was really in a bad way. Even the doctors were there and they were saying it. So I remember Medha Patkar, pinching my hand literally like this and Arvind saying, chup raho, don't show your tears, bilkul nahi. इनको घुटनों पे सरकार को घुटने टेकने पड़ेंगे, देखो. मैंने कहा नहीं अरविंद वो बचेंगे नहीं, क्या होगा, बहुत बुरा हो जाएगा, literally. But I saw that ruthlessness and I said, I don't know, because I felt I didn't know enough about this, you see. So I was uncomfortable and I think many of us were. And Arvind said, nahi, ruko. And one more day, and that was a very crucial day, I think, we could have lost Anna. So then I saw a very ruthless side and I said रुको एक दिन और ये और मांगे मंगवाते हैं. And जो मांगे थी हमारी वो बदलती रहती थी. The goal post would also change. But then the joint session of parliament was convened, if you remember.
Right.
And in that sense we created history. We brought the government to its knees, but at a big cost. And then to turn around Anna after a few months and say, no, we will make a party and we will not listen to you. And then Arvind said one more thing. When the party was formed and he was very angry, he was so angry he would not talk to anybody. All of us. We were saying, Arvind, like that. All of us. He was making this face. He was so mad when Arvind Anna said whatever. He had this nasty expression. He was scowling. And he says, मैं भी करूँगा fast. और मैं भी फास्ट करूँगा और कितने दिन क्या था तो किसी ने कहा 13 दिन क्या था तो मैं 14 दिन करूँगा करके दिखा दूँगा. Like literally it was like that. It was like, okay.
So was it a calibrated choice of bringing in Anna Hazare at that point in time? After all, that Gandhian image, was it purely to capitalize the situation because perhaps you did not have any other face? Was it a calibrated choice?
Oh yeah, it was a very emotive image. A senior, 70-year-old plus, almost octogenarian, sitting there, Gandhian, wearing his white kurta pajama, frail, old, simple man, asking for a basic law against corruption, speaking against graft. And I think the simplicity touched everybody, the authenticity of who he was. And people were very emotionally involved. I mean, it was him, it was Anna Hazare who pulled in everybody. Later on, Arvind outdid Anna and became this supremo, so to speak.
So what was it like when you all were part of the government, or when the government was essentially formed, and this entire tussle that started of the coterie coming out? And I remember in the first press conference that you did after stepping down or resigning from the party, you said there was no inner party democracy, and you called it, a crony clique, if I remember. What was the crony clique that you're referring to? Who were part of that clique?
At that point of time, it was of course Arvind and Manish. Arvind and Manish have been together. Parivartan and Kabir, the two NGOs, were run by Manish Sisodia, the one of them founded by Ford Foundation. And it was Manish who settled all the money records and the salaries. So in a way, everybody had to report to him because he was the paymaster. Arvind kept his hands away from money. So all the chanda collection which we did all the time was going through Manish. Anna's team was also asking questions, they were not getting answers. To be fair, Prashant ji and his father, Shashi Bhushan ji, did a lot. Shanti Bhushan ji did a lot. Shanti ji gave so much money and I miss him really. He was really, I mean, we don't speak enough about him, but he's done a lot more than everyone else, Because in terms of giving support to people, offering money, giving houses for people to stay in, to just feeding so many people, to all the support, technical, legal, was all provided by Shanti ji and Prashant ji to some extent. But that was what it was. And you know what started happening? Arvind started having a problem with Prashant and Yogendra. A massive problem. And everybody was asked to choose. And I said, I do like some things about Prashant ji and I do like some things about you. I cannot choose. And it's like that. It's
like choose how?
Like on issue of Kashmir. So obviously, a lot of things we did not agree with. And I said, some things I don't agree with you. So there were many issues that they had issues with. And at that point of time, I remember Kumar Vishwas also and Manish were very were close to each other, and they did not support Prashant Bhushan at all.
And why?
There was this whole thing about referendum on Kashmir, if you remember.
Right.
And somebody had, you know what had happened with Prashant Bhushan? He was beaten up in the office.
Right.
So there were some people in the party who were supporting it, and while Prashant Bhushan was a part of it. So they would say something else, but they always had this bad cop, good cop happening. And they had a team, the underground team, which was always working at Arvind's and Manish's behest. And though Prashant and Yogendra and G and Anna would, and Shanti Bhushan would be doing so much, they were never kept in the loop. Neither was Anna and his team. So it was always this little group always working. Some of us were trusted because we were there, we were decent, and Arvind could see that. So we knew. So some of us had access to all. But I
But
said, I won't,
was there a period when you raised an objection, the fact that these are the people
many
who...
times we had fights. Have had so many fights. I said, why on earth are we getting people to sign and fill forms when they'll never have a chance to contest elections? Do you remember the biggest fraud that happened that nobody talks about? Arvind went and announced that anybody can compete. कौन decide करता है tickets को? अब कुछ लोग बैठ के करते हैं, ये सारी पार्टियां करती हैं. In fact, every debate he said that. और किसको टिकट कब मिलता है, किसी आम इंसान को नहीं मिलता है, सब पार्टी ही चूज करती है, सब पार्टी इतनी तरह से डिसेंट्रलाइज है, कोई ना पार्टी डेमोक्रेसी नहीं है, सब टॉप हैवी हैं. और आप लोग भरिए. और लोग 5,000 सिग्नेचर्स लेके भेजते थे. आई हैड एक्सेस टू ऑफिस वेयर आई वाज हैंडलिंग दिस. दे वर कमिंग फ्रॉम ऑल ओवर एंड द एप्लीकेशन. Arvind said, you also know, Shazia, ये तो होना नहीं है, वो तो हम ही लोग डिसाइड करेंगे. But why are you saying this? I'm handling it. I took it very seriously. You know, some of us are very earnest about it. We really, for us, it was a big thing. I actually believed that, oh, Anna is Mahatma Gandhi. You know, I actually felt that, and Arvind is like.
So you believed that Arvind Kejriwal was actually bringing about much needed change into the political system?
I actually believe that, because Arvind would say this, and he seemed very sincere. But soon it was unraveling, you see. And then something happened, if you remember. Arvind got much fewer seats the first time around. And that Somnath Bharti incident happened with the African women. And it was quite ugly, and I did not support. In fact, I apologized on television about what had happened, because they were women after all and they deserve respect. They were pissed off with me. Obviously, they didn't like it at all. And not just that, do you remember Arvind sat on the streets and on Republic Day?
Right.
So I had this memory from my extremely early on years when there was this Shahbano case, and there was this Shahabuddin, who was then a retired IFS officer who had boycotted the Republic Day. And I remember, and Arif sir had told me, and who's part of the family literally, that this is wrong, you should never do that. So I remembered that, and I realized this is very wrong. And that was the day my differences arose. I am the only one who was not part of the thing there. I did not think I was very important, though I had gained a lot of traction, and I was an important person, but it was not about me. It was a lot of self-effacement, because I'd already been a TV news anchor. I had already given that up. So this was not my motivation. That we didn't know about politics. TV, I was already there. So there was no greed, so to speak, in my mind. So I did not like the fact that that he's boycotting the Republic. And I was the only one who did not support Arvind. Everyone else was there. Do you remember that day?
Right. The entire lot was present. But
Arvind
that
said,
started
I'm going to sleep on the roads.
But that's the part that you refer to, saying that agitation is not what people like in this country anymore. That was the other reason why you said that you're going to step down. But that's what Arvind Kejriwal was all about. The fact that he said that I was going to bring everything onto the street, let the people decide. Something that did find some resonance at some point in time. So why did you have a problem with that? Because that's how Arvind Kejriwal was always.
No, but this is what, okay, I'll give you an example. So Manish Sisodia's name and Shazia Ilmi's name, there were two names that were first announced by Arvind Kejriwal. Ours were the only two names, which was after we formed the party, and we were the founders of the party. So I did not understand. I got busy with R.K. Puram. It was new for me. I don't even know why they gave me R.K. Puram. I got to know much later. That's another story. Forget about it. I did not understand why, when the agenda we are saying this whole thing of Bijli half and Pani maaf. We were writing that down. So I said, Arvind, why are we writing that? Because we had discussed, we had these committees for which Atishi and Raghav were brought in. Why are we saying this? He says, no, the arrears accrued and due to us, to the people of Delhi and Exchequer by the electricity companies, they will compensate. That point it made sense. But later on, we realized that we were giving the same amount of money, but it's the Delhi government which is subsidizing those bills.
Right.
So, but it was totally different. You see, Arvind had a way. He's very smart. He knew how to. I said, oh, this is the reason. So, some of us did speak about it. We were not fools. And Prashant ji objected all the time. The choice of people who were coming in, we objected to.
Like who?
Lots of people. I mean.
But if you have to name now that it's all past, what is it that one name that you felt bringing him brought in a lot more discomfort?
Durgesh Pathak.
Now he's a popular man.
He was so wily and so cunning and so terrible. He was brought in just to hassle, and there would be a person there. Later on, he got a ticket for MCD elections by AAP. In Arkipuram, and it was like just to hassle me, and they would use abusive language, you know, like let's say, think of like Muslim dog,
Right.
let's say, and I'm saying dog because I can't say the other word. They would say that in Hindi when I would be doing pressers and handling everything, and when I would go to complain about them, this Satish, Tagar and Durgesh, they would be sitting with Manish Sisodia. Can you imagine? So I didn't know what to do. People thought, oh my God, Shazia is this, that, and that. And as I grew in popularity, because I was a news anchor, I didn't know how to speak in public. But you get better, and I'm quick.
But did you feel that it was
When I
almost
went
like a
to-
boys' club there?
Oh, totally. Oh, absolutely. It's wo Ghaziabad ke ladke. This is what it was, you know. I'm sure.
Because I don't
I
recall
don't-
at that point in time many women leaders in
No,
Aam
no, it
Aadmi
was
Party, at a
very-
later stage perhaps.
No,
but-
no, absolutely. It was very, very male and very hardcore at that, and they were very disrespectful, you know. They could be so dismissive and mean, knowing very well that I did not ever, I was like one of the colleagues. There would be 5 of us in the little wagoner, if you remember. Manish Sisodia, Arvind Kejriwal, Kumar Vishwas, Sanjay Singh, and me in the middle. We would all go like that. No, there was no girl, guy, boy thing there. We would fighting, hitting each other. We were like that. So it was very crazy when this just started, and it was terrible. It just became like a guy, boy thing, and it's like also some of the humor used was like very pathetic, like a boys' locker room humor. Which I said, why are you talking like this? There's so many young girls there. So all kinds of crazy things happened, which I screamed at them for and whatever. I was one of them, but they would speak about others. And you know, but just terrible things happened. I mean, if I tell you, so Durgesh Pathak was sitting with Manish Sisodia and Satish Dagar, the same guy who led this abusive thing publicly in front. I had tears of anger in my eyes. And you know, when I went to Arvind to complain, Arvind said, "Dekh lo, yahan Shazia Manish keh raha hai, baat kar lo." I said, "Arvind, do you know what happened?" And I showed him videos. He says, "Nahi, Manish se baat karo." He was like,
So was
it was
this
so terrible.
was it always that he always created a second rung? But while we say that there was no second rung, the second rung was only to protect Arvind Kejriwal. Today it has
Yes.
come out in the open.
Me, myself and I. Arvind would use anybody and everybody to protect himself. He'll throw anybody under the bus. Anybody. I mean, his own family, anybody. He is actually extremely mischievous and extremely dangerous. And I tell my friends, you know, there are lots of people who don't like BJP. And there are lots of people also in my community and also in my family who sometimes say, oh, BJP, because this is the impression some people have created, which is difficult to work with. And I say, you know, you think BJP is bad, and is that the reason why you want to go for Aam Aadmi Party? They become quiet. And I said, you go for anybody, but don't go for them. Just
And
don't
what is
go
the
for
reason?
them. The reason is that Arvind would shake hands with anybody. Whether he can take money from anybody.
So
He can do anything. There is nothing. There's a certain kind of ruthlessness.
So
There is no love for the country, love for anything.
So
You
not
saw
as a
how you-
BJP spokesperson, but just as an individual who's been in that party, would you still say that it is better to be with the Congress rather than the Aam Aadmi Party? Is that what you're suggesting?
If there was a
not the
choice,
BJP?
if there was a choice between the two, and somebody just is filled with this hatred for BJP, I mean, I'll give them many reasons as to why BJP is. I've been very good for all communities and all sections and all religions, and I can quote many central welfare schemes. But if people were to give me a choice, I would say anybody but Aam Aadmi Party, just anybody, because the man stands for nothing. वो ना हिंदू है, वो ना मुस्लिम है, ना गरीबों का है, ना अमीरों का है, वो किसी का नहीं है. वो ना भगवान का है, ना संतान का है, वो किसी का
So
नहीं है.
when you quit, did he
वो
actually reach
किस
out?
कहीं से भी पैसा ले लेगा. मैं सिर्फ सोरोस की बात नहीं कर रही हूँ. He'll take money from anywhere and everywhere. He'll compromise at every level.
I'll come to the funding aspect because that is also spoken in hushed tones for a very long time. But I want to also, ask you, you were seen, as you said, the Wagner picture still remains with a lot of people. So you were seen as the inner coterie of Arvind Kejriwal.
And I was.
For coming out of it, was there a moment when someone from the party reached out to you, that, look, Shazia, you founded the party along with Arvind Kejriwal, you should not resign?
Yeah,
Did
so when
Arvind
I
Kejriwal
resigned,
make-
when I resigned, there was a big furor. It was covered everywhere, and they did try. Prashant, Yogendra tried.
But not Arvind.
No, Arvind also tried. Arvind spoke to me thrice, and but I could not go back. I mean, the way things had happened, it was very ugly. What they did to me in Arkipuram. So if you remember, Shravan, there was this fake sting that happened right when I was fighting elections, and it was totally fake because you can make out from the cut points.
Right.
That they're jump cuts, so you know that it's not continuous, and you put a yes from here and a no from there and make somebody look what they're not. So I knew it was fake because it had happened right there in front of me. So so they had presented it in such a way, and Manish Sisodia knew about it, and he was giving this information to all the journalists. The journalists were telling me, I said, it's very strange. I said, Manish, why are you telling people there's going to be a fake sting? What is a sting? I had no idea because I had not done anything wrong. A lot of people ask you. A lot of people used to ask me questions. So, and in fact, it was on Arnav's show that while I was on the show, when Arnav was asking me this question, I said, it is totally wrong, Arnav. Just like I'm sitting now, I said, it's totally wrong. You'll know very soon. And if you see, there's a jump in the middle when he's saying, will you take money and do this? And they were saying that they have some story and will you do this? And Arnav said, no, you said this. I said, Arnav, see it, and everybody is running it. I said, you'll know very soon it's not. Vibhav called. And Vibhav said, a party ke liye, and I told Arnav, give me a minute, there's an important call. It happened actually on air on Arnav's show. And Arvind came, Arvind said, ये पार्टी के लिए तुम 2-3 दिन बैठ सकती हो. मैंने कहा नहीं है, गलत है, आपको पता चल जाएगा. उसमें कुमार विश्वास भी था, उसमें 2-3 और नाम भी थे, ओखला के, मतलब 4-5 नाम और थे. But mine was most prominent and Kumar was not fighting.
This was orchestrated within the party? You believe this? Was this orchestrated within the party to
Yes,
discredit
this
you?
is what I learned, because there's somebody called Anuranjan Jha who did it. There was a very small case made against him. I said, I'll fight, contest it. He said, no, we are doing it. And the case was dismissed. Nobody went over for the hearings as well. And Anuranjan Jha now lives in London, and he calls himself an Aam Aadmi Party worker, and he meets with all the senior arms. Can you imagine doing it to your own? To somebody like me who tie a Rakhi, who was so dedicated, who was a fool basically. I mean, I was traumatized.
You believe that
and
you were
not
going
just that.
stronger?
So Arvind called me and said, कि 2-3 बैठ जाओ. I did, and those were the last 4 days of the campaign. And then Election Commission ordered an inquiry because Yogendra Yadav went up, and then the actual footage was out, and we were honorably exonerated, and that bite was played out where I was saying, अरे हम झूठ नहीं बोल सकते, आपके पास कुछ होगा प्रशांत जी से चेक कराएंगे तभी हम आपका हेल्प कर सकते हैं, नहीं तो this came out which says it all. And then it was and Arvind also gave a bite saying नहीं शाजिया सीधी है और ये हुआ. But the last, and so 3 days I was out of picture, the important campaign, and last day when I was exonerated and I appeared, I just listened to Arvind like a fool. I shouldn't have. And you know what I said, Arvind, your time was 11 a.m. आपको आना यहाँ पे. I kept calling. It says नहीं उनकी तबीयत नहीं ठीक है, वो वेस्ट दिल्ली में इधर हैं. I kept waiting because प्रचार का आखिरी मिनट तक 5 बजे तक होता है टाइम, उसके बाद अब नहीं कर सकते हैं. We kept calling, and the same Durgesh Pathak circling around and Satish Dagar all around. I was feeling, and as it had been through a lot now, those 3 days of this.
Right.
Thankfully, it took me very little time, 3 days to get exonerated. But I felt like I was, like somebody had just. It was terrible, It was the worst kind of violation you can think of. So, it was so bad, and I rang up, and you know what? Arvind said, "Nahi, wo hai nahi, idhar nahi," and I got to know that he was campaigning in cantonment. And cantonment and Arkipuram are very close to each other, and Suresh Commando he was campaigning for. So he could have come and he didn't, and I lost by barely 300 votes.
So you think just because of your popularity and the fact that you were rising within the party was that
they do it to everybody. They do it to everybody who's rising.
So that is the reason
Yogendra
why
Yadav,
Kumar
when he
Vishwas
contested from Gurgaon, I think Gurgaon it was, right? Naveen Jain was sent just to hassle him. You can ask him this. So they do this. Kumar Vishwas, of course, complained, and I was there for him because, Ghaziabad, they gave me a ticket 3 days before the last day. Because Arkipuram ideally should have been New Delhi for me, right? And everybody said it should be New Delhi for Shazia, and a lot of people supported me. They gave it to Ashish Khaitan. And then literally they sat down. Manish came in to my house and sat literally for 2 days with all his people ki Ghaziabad se lado. And I don't know anybody about Ghaziabad. And when was the last day? It was just 3 days left. And which constituencies went to polls the first phase? Ghaziabad. So I had barely any time, barely 10 days. So I was obviously used and thrown.
If I have to ask you now,
Very
in
clever
hindsight,
people.
in hindsight, because when you were quitting and you were asked this question, that will you join any other party? I remember correctly, you said you're not going to join any
Yeah.
party. What made you join the BJP? Because let's face it, your party still faces this allegation of being anti-minority. The fact that you're not given too many tickets to Muslim candidates, barring a few, perhaps, obviously, you know, the poster boy being the Kerala candidate. Why did you choose the Bharatiya Janata Party over Aam Aadmi Party, quitting for whatever reasons, then saying that you're not going to join, finally joining the Bharatiya Janata Party?
So Aam Aadmi Party, as deceitful as I discovered they were, was totally had totally dampened my spirits and literally traumatized me. I was in a state of depression, by the way, and I waited out a whole year. And I went off to meet my sister in the US. She was there, and I just could not do anything. I was immobilized. I mean, I really was in a state of depression, literally. So, and I don't hide that, because I'm not that sort of a person. People do go through health issues, and sometimes your mental health gets affected by all the.
Right.
So I went through that. It was very bad. I would, you know, I had insomnia. I would cry. I just cried it out. I couldn't believe what happened. It was very shocking for me. It really hurt a lot, because I know what I'd put in, you know. I'd burned bridges with so many people, I had taken them, and I just couldn't believe that they could do this. So that was that. And I saw, no matter how many times they called me, and they did say, you know, that you come back with this Rajya Sabha, there is this Delhi Commissioner, you come. I just didn't. I'm a 100% or a 0%, and I was.
So you
out.
felt that it was complete sabotage, and
Oh, totally, totally, totally.
and you're the cusp of actually making your first big political mark. If
Yeah.
just about.
And I was
300.
I was the first one to join IAC and the first one to leave Aam Aadmi Party. Let me tell you, I was the first. So a lot of people stayed back because they promised कि ये कर देंगे, वो कर देंगे, but I just could not. But that's not all. A whole year I waited out. Everybody asked me to join. There were other parties also, and यहाँ पे भी Prashant and Yogendra kept trying and asking, but they were thrown out very soon, if you remember.
Right.
So after 3-4 months, Arvind made it so ugly that in Kapashera, where they were having this executive meeting, literally there were bouncers who were brought in. And if you see the footage of those times, and I'm sure you'll have it, Shravan, Yogendra Yadav ji used to work with a person called Islam Bhai and all. They were beaten up, literally. And Arvind just said, Arvind is like that. You should see him in those moves. I've seen him. He would say, अगर ये होंगे तो मैं नहीं रहूँगा, because they were asking him कि किसको टिकट दे रहे हो, क्यों दे रहे हो, क्या वजह है, क्या इन्वेस्टिगेशन हुआ है. हम लोग तो प्रॉमिस करते थे कि 3-tier इन्वेस्टिगेशन के बाद टिकट देंगे. हो क्या रहा है, किसको भी कुछ भी हो रहा है. So there was a lot of, so this is what happened. So I'm so glad I left then, and but you know, what really hurt was that, then Arvind kept saying all kinds of things. She didn't do this, she didn't do that. Then I met him, because we were involved in the same case against Kapil Sibal. So Kapil Sibal's son, Amit Sibal, was fighting all of us. I met him and I said, Arvind, don't you dare. मेरे बारे में नहीं बोलना. Your own sister would not have done what I've done for you. तो मेरा तो तुम नाम ही ना लेना. Don't you dare. Literally I said it, and he saw the anger. After that he never spoke about me or against me, because I literally threatened him. I said, you know very well. So, you know, it's very sad what they did to me and people like us. We gave so much to it, you know, and those are important years. I could have joined any other party. I could have continued being a news anchor, getting a lot of money. So you feel fooled in a very terrible way. It is very traumatizing. And Congress was a no-no. Congress से खिलाफ तो पूरा अन्ना हज़ारे आंदोलन हुआ था. How could I think of Congress party or Samajwadi party? What were my options? Congress party, right? You would say Samajwadi party, BSP, RJD, TMC. I mean, none of them spoke to me, spoke to my heart or my conscience. Maybe at that point of time, TMC, at that point of time, maybe. But it was too far from me to think about or to relate to. It was a West Bengal party, right? So no, I just didn't, and I stayed away. And you must remember one thing, that I am one person who has been consistent when it comes to issues like triple talaq, and also from my family, what we've been through and what we've seen. As a kid, because I was related to somebody, up to Arif Muhammad Khan, I mean, the way we were attacked and hassled. So I am very against that. I was the only Muslim, forget man or woman, who would dare hold the flag and say, Vande Matram, India against corruption days. When they used to say this is backed by RSS, and all the leftist lobby would say, how do you realize? They would call me and say, Shazia, तुम्हें पता है ये RSS वाले हैं. तुम वंदे मातरम क्यों कह रही हो? मैं कहा मैं तो कहूँगी। बोले तुम्हें पता है कम्युनलिज्म पर नहीं बोलना है। मैंने कहा सब मुसलमान कम्युनलिज्म पर ही बोलेंगे, कोई करप्शन पर नहीं बोल सकता। एवरी मुस्लिम इज सपोज टू टेक अप द इश्यू ऑफ कम्युनलिज्म इन दिस कंट्री. Why can't Muslims talk about other things? Why can't we have a broader spectrum? Why can't we talk about transparency? Why can't we talk about probity in public life? Why can't we talk about hygiene and sanitation? Why can't we talk about so many other things? Why should I be obsessed with my Muslim identity? I'm not. If at all some things bother me, and tell me where would I go, Shravan? Tell me where would I go if I want to speak about reform in my community? Tell me where would I go? Will SP or Congress would have supported me? My mother wore a burqa and I saw her struggling in this garmi. I remember कानपुर में मुझे लेने आती थी वो, एम्बेसडर से कार से निकलती थी and सब लोग मुझे देखते थे. No other girl's mother would wear a burqa. And those things stay with me. And I know what I've been through sitting on a rickshaw, going to school like that. So I'm very committed to it. More than any political cause, I'm very committed to the social cause. It has been part of my life. If you see my anchoring, since my anchoring days, people will tell you the famous Imrana case and all of that. I'm very against hijab. I'm for reform in my community, and there's no other party which would do it. UCC, which party would be there? See, and as you know, God shows you the way. Triple talaq thing happened just after I joined.
But do you find it still a struggle to convince some people within your family that you are, after all, the BJP spokesperson?
It's very tough. It's very tough. Not just in my community, but I say there are three segments. One is the old AAP team, now I think is crumbling. Second is the Muslim community per se, which means my family, immediate family, and the broader community. And third is the same old leftist journalists who I worked with, my media fraternity. So I work in these three areas, and that was the toughest. And they gave you hell because they thought Arvind was God. So when Arvind is fighting Sheila Dikshit and wanting to be a CM, he's with the RSS and he's the worst man. And he's doing this, that and the other, and he should not be there.
Because there was this, in hushed tones, it was spoken that the right or perhaps right-wing groups were supporting the
funding. But when Arvind contests from Varanasi and starts abusing Prime Minister Modi, then he becomes the god for these leftists. Oh, he's great. All the sins are washed off. What a turnaround. Look at the intellectual spectrum of this so-called intelligentsia. Just see. So he abuses UPA. He's evil. He abuses Modi. He's great. मतलब कितने डम हैं ये लोग यार, कितना छोटा इनका दिमाग है. पूरी इनकी इंटेलेक्चुअलिज्म, जर्नलिज्म इसी में रह गया है. कुछ सोचते नहीं है, इनको कुछ पता ही नहीं है, फिक्र ही नहीं है. बस एंटी बीजेपी, प्रो बीजेपी, एंटी आरएसएस, प्रो आरएसएस. कुछ दिमाग ही नहीं चलता है. I have such disdain for them.
Let me then ask you your prediction of the Aam Aadmi Party, because we are talking on a day when you have their leader Sanjay Singh being released on bail. There are a lot of talks. Your party has gone a step further about predicting what happens to Raghav Chadha. I want to ask you, as someone who's been within the Aam Aadmi Party, what happens next for them?
I think there is a lot of confusion within the ranks. I happen to speak to some of the people who are still there, and they are refusing. I think a hint has been given. And a big question mark is there about credibility of Saurabh Bhardwaj and Atishi. Somewhere it is being felt by Arvind Kejriwal that they're about to hijack the party. So all kinds of things are being said, which is why they're quiet and they're not saying much. I expected Atishi to say more than just some random allegations about BJP offering money, the proof of which she has not offered. Instead of saying it in the media, she could have gone to a police station, right? Or she could have filed a complaint or sent a legal notice or given any kind of evidence, but none whatsoever. So again, sham, something they're good at. But so I feel it's really on the precipice of a complete breakdown.
You're saying that they will not have a second leadership?
It will not be allowed. Let's see what Sanjay does when he comes out. Sanjay Bhai is also quite a political animal, just like we all are, because nobody should misunderstand that I'm saying animal, we all are political animals. I'm very careful about what I say, because anything can be misconstrued. So let's see what happens now. And I think, which is why I think you heard Raghav Chadha's name suddenly brought in, and Durgesh Pathak.
You feel that Raghav is a little uncomfortable with the current? situation?
Yes, Raghav has a very small vitrectomy surgery, which is a retina surgery. I was reading all about it because this is a statement he gave. It's done for 40,000 rupees in most places in Delhi. You know, that's how much it is. It's a day surgery. And so Delhi government is doing such a great job with health services. They have their own Guru Nanak Eye Center run by the Delhi government, which has a retina clinic. So I don't know why Raghav had to go for 4 weeks to the UK and in London. His wife is also back for her promotion, so one wonders really. So I think, yeah, I think somewhere it's all unraveling. The truth is finally coming out, and my prayer was, when I went through those moments of anguish with people treating me badly, journalists writing, you know, shame, you left it and you've joined the BJP, and I know what I went through. It was a very tough period to go through because I knew the truth about them. My prayer was, let the truth be known about them. I used to say कि Allah Ta'ala जिनका जो सच है ना, बस वो दुनिया को दिखा देना. Don't do anything for me. Let people know the truth about them, and finally the truth is out there. So I feel very vindicated.
But Shazia, isn't it a little dangerous that a sitting chief minister is arrested, and that on the basis of just witness statements? Would you not agree that it is draconian in nature that you make an allegation where they're saying where exactly is the money? Then they say that these are just simply witness statements, and the fact that there are other allegations that have been leveled about electoral bonds. The question here is that can you actually rely on just witness statements and arrest a sitting chief minister?
I'm sure there are just not witness statements. Now when they talk about Sharath Reddy, let's say, which is post facto, and they said that is the reason why he was made an approver and was granted bail. So let me tell you, the entire case is not built on just Sharath Reddy's statement. It has been, and every time somebody becomes an approver, and you know that, the court probes all the charges and corroborates whatever is being said. Nobody can be taken for the face value. So there is obviously a lot out there because of which Manish Sisodia has been denied bail at all levels. It's only today that Sanjay Singh got bail. So I think there is more to be said there, and I think because of the Aam Aadmi Party Goa candidates and the office bearers talking about kickbacks and the link between Sameer Mahindru and the retailers, the South Cartel, and also the way the policy was made and then removed, and not just that, the actual loss to the exchequer. The sales of alcohol goes up, the consumption goes up, the wholesaler gets a commission increased from 6 to 12%, and the retailers get a jump of 185%, and the government is cut out. So all these leftist parties or secular parties or whatever you want to call this gang who speak against privatization, shouldn't they ask the question, why was the entire liquor business privatized, and why was government cut out of getting any excise? In fact, the kind of money they got, I mean, if I give you the working per 750 ml bottle, how much the government lost and how much these retailers got, you'll be shocked. And it's been proved today. It's a story that after the policy was done with and the old excise policy was brought back, there has actually been a jump, and there's more than 7,000 crores in excise after the cancellation of Manish Sisodia's policy, which has gotten all of them into trouble. And not just that, while the policy was in place over a period of roughly 1.5 years, the collections were mean and much smaller than what they could have been. So that goes on to show that it was being done just to encourage profiteering of a few individuals who would give you kickbacks. So let me tell you, electoral bonds were legit. They were just struck down as unconstitutional. You give the money to the bank through a check, that's how it's encashed. But we are talking about kickbacks, we're talking about bribery, we're talking about quid pro quo, we're talking about tweaking a policy and involving a lot of liquor mafia and elements who were doing it only for their own gains.
Last, I want to ask you this, if given a choice and if you had to rephrase how you remembered Arvind Kejriwal, and this is what you had said: brilliant person who espoused the concept of Swaraj, of collective making, is unable to follow it personally within the party. This is what you had said. In today's time, how would you like to rephrase it?
A man who had us all fooled. A wolf in sheep's clothing. A demagogue who I thought to be an ideologue. And starting from a jhadu, ending with daru. Sad state of affairs. Starting from Suraj, going to Sharab. Sad state of affairs. And two things that Anna disliked the most was this whole thing about Sharab, and of course corruption. And Arvind has just gone ahead and done exactly that. So it's a complete, full churning of the wheel that we see here. It's very sad. I wish I'd known a little bit. I wish I was not so foolish and trusting. And I really wish I had some more, I had more brains and understanding of human nature. I would not have wasted so much of my time.
So would it be Shazia the television journalist or Shazia the politician? Whom would you choose?
I would have continued to be in television, I think, because I never thought I would be a politician. In fact, even when I joined the BJP, it has been now almost 9 years, in fact 9th year, I've never asked for a ticket. I was never interested in electoral politics. Everybody goes for something. When you see people changing parties, they do it for a ticket, right? I'm the only person who's changed the party and never asked. You can ask BJP top brass. I've never asked them for a ticket because I'm not your conventional. I'm just a foolish politician.
Okay, someone said accidental politician. You're calling yourself a foolish politician. If given a choice,
if you're a politician who doesn't want to make money, who's very proud of being above board, who looks down with disdain at people who make a lot of money through illicit means, I mean, I literally look down upon them. I'm snooty about, for me being
so
above
where do you
board.
see yourself in the next 5 years?
I see myself doing a lot, being out there right in the midst of things, in the flurry of activities, working on a lot of social campaigns that I do.
And one social campaign that you would like to associate yourself with?
For me, it's always been important. I always talk about reform for my community. That touches me. I have seen how my mother has been and all the women. That's something I really want a better deal and a happier deal for my sisters of all religions. I really want things to change for them.
What would be the most ideal image in your mind for the women, or rather the Muslim women?
More education, more freedom, and a say at the decision-making table in their houses and in their lives.
Well, thank you very much, Shazia, for giving us a sneak peek into not what we see at 9 p.m. always, and also taking us through the journey of the Wagoner days of the Aam Aadmi Party.
Yeah.
That was the Shazia taking us through those days where we saw a different Arvind Kejriwal, a different Manish Sisodia, and hoping that politics still remains different. And let's hope that this coming elections is going to be different for all the other political parties. Thank you very much for watching us.
Thank you so much, Ravan.
Thank you.